Where do we
double
go?
whammy?
Nice, thank you very much.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me? Okay. It is 9 o'clock, we'll pass 9 o'clock in the morning. It's Tuesday, August 28th, 2018. We are in the City Council chambers for the City of Brush, Colorado, for the purpose of conducting a protest hearing on the recall of Janine Anderson, Ward 3 City Council member for the City of Brush. My name is Karen Goldman, and I have been appointed by the Brush City Council to serve as the administrative hearing officer in this recall protest. So I am reading from a prepared statement, so I am just going to go ahead and continue. Before we begin the actual hearing, I want to apprise you of facts presented thus far in the protest. And the first thing I want to do is to identify the actions that have taken place that got us to where we are today. And all the dates I will mention occurred in 2018. The city clerk reviewed the recall petition and approved it as to form on July 11th and determined that the number of required minimum signatures was 69 signatures. The recall petition was filed on August 2nd, and on the petition 163 signatures were submitted. The city clerk verified 132 of those signatures as those belonging to qualified voters, those eligible to sign the petition and to vote on the matter, and issued an initial determination of sufficiency on August 6th. A protest by Ms. Anderson was filed on August 16th, and on August 20th, the clerk sent out a notice identifying today as the day to hear the protest. I'm going to, regarding the protest, I'd like to identify the items that were listed, and I am going to paraphrase. There are 5 of them. The first one is that there is an error on the petition itself as to the name of the official being recalled. There is there is an allegation regarding voter registration counts, and that all 69 voters are unsubstantiated as qualified voters. Number 3, that there was a problem that the copy of the petition was not made available for viewing within 24 hours. Item 4, at least one signature was duplicated and some voters had moved. And number 5, that when circulating the petition, the circulators went outside the 200-word statement and added their own editing when presenting the petitions. So these are the items, and these are the only items that we will be considering today in this protest hearing. I'm going to take administrative notice of the petition itself, the protest, and the voter registration list. And what that means is that nobody has to submit any of these items as evidence. But any evidence that is introduced will be marked, and it will be considered a part of the final record. Any protester evidence will be identified with a letter, and those of the petitioners will be identified with a number. So here's how the hearing is going to proceed. The protester, Ms. Anderson, will have an opportunity to go first, present more information regarding the protest, submit evidence, and may present witnesses, all of whom will testify under oath. The petitioners will have an opportunity to question those witnesses, as will I as the hearing officer. Following the presentation by the protester, the petitioners will also have an opportunity to present more information, present evidence if there is any, and also present witnesses. And again, I will have the opportunity to question those witnesses. And I'm going to ask, since I would like the protester and the petitioners to stand at the podium, I'm going to ask that any witnesses called sit at the end here and turn on the microphone rather than try to share the hanging microphone ahead. Are there any legal representatives here for either the protesters or the petitioners? Okay, thank you. It should also be noted at the point that subpoenas have been requested by the persons involved in the hearing, and those subpoenas have been issued by the clerk, and I have those here as part of the record. So while this proceeding is open to the public, unless called as witness, no member of the public will be allowed to either testify or to ask questions. Let's talk about recalls. I'm sure I don't have to tell you that recalls are very, very difficult. They tend to be very personal, both for the person being recalled and the person seeking the recall. And in a small community such as Brush, I can only imagine how difficult this recall process has also been for the citizens at large. I expect decorum here today and respect for people who are speaking, and I'm not going to tolerate anything less than that. So that means no applauding, no hissing, no booing. I'm grateful to see there are no signs, which I would then have to ask you to remove. I also want to let you know that it is my general practice to allow a fairly wide range of testimony in the hearing. However, any testimony that strays too far outside the 5 items listed on the protest that I read into the record will not be tolerated. And finally, everybody who speaks will speak under oath. I'm going to ask when you come forward to state and spell your name so I have it for the record. And before we begin, are there any questions from either the protester or the petitioners? Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a problem if I, instead of swearing, I affirm?
It's part of my statement. Any other questions? All right. Ms. Anderson, the floor is yours. I'd like to have you speak at the podium. And before you do, I'm going to swear you in. Will you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Will you please state and spell your name for the record?
Is Janine Anderson, J-E-A-N-I-N-E.
And your last name?
Anderson, A-N-D-E-R-S-O-N.
All right. You may proceed.
The two items that are left are the voter registration count. And when I picked up the petitions and went ahead and called over to the county clerk's office to verify the petitions myself, I spoke with Pat Mendoza, and she referred me back to Andrea as the DEO, which must mean the designated election official, I'm guessing.
You are correct.
Okay. And I explained to Pat that I didn't want Andrea's. I would like to have my own independent, my side, verify through the voter registrations, and could I have those? Again, she referred me back to Andrea as the DEO. And again, I told her I would like to verify my own. And I told her that my understanding was that Andrea had gone to her office, and she said, well, you'll have to call the Secretary of State. And I said, right.
Just a clarification. What exactly were you asking the county clerk for?
The voter registration list.
Okay, thank you. Please continue.
Right, and I reiterated that again, I wanted to come into the office and check the exact same voter list that they had on file for the voters in my ward at the county that Andrea had. I just wanted an independent of the clerk. I wanted my own, which I'm entitled to. We were up against a deadline by this point because Andrea's off on Friday, and so I arranged to file the petition protest on Thursday. And later, I did get an email back from the county office that, and her name is Susan Bailey. She's the county clerk. And she said that there had been a misunderstanding in her office, and that I could have access to the voter list. My understanding is that anybody, it's public record, and anybody at any time can access the voter list. And so we left it at that, and I went ahead and filed the petition, and at this point I haven't picked it up, and I'm going to leave it as it is. I went ahead and looked through the law, and under 31-4, 503, 3A, and I'm reading from what happens as the process goes forward. After a protest in writing under oath has been filed, the county clerk and recorder shall, upon receipt of such notice, prepare a registration list pursuant to section 31-10-205 to be utilized in determining whether such petition is sufficient. So at this point, I still have not received the list from her.
It's actually 3B, I think.
Yes, it is. Sorry,
3B?
it's
Sure. Okay.
It is 3B. Still waiting for the word that she has the list prepared, and that's where I left it. And so to this date, I still have not had my own verification.
Is there anything more you want to say on that item?
Well, I would still like to have it. I am still entitled to it, and I still would like to have the voter list.
Couple of questions. So when the county clerk mentioned that there had been a misunderstanding in her office, did she indicate what the misunderstanding was?
May I get my phone? I believe that she didn't, I'll read you the exact email if I can find it. Can I take just a minute to find it?
Sure. While we're waiting, one of the things I forgot to mention is that if you have your cell phones with you, please either turn them off or put them on silent. Thank you.
I am at clerk's conference and just able to respond. September 7th, 2018 is the last date for ballot certification to the county clerk, and that's the last email that I got. And so maybe there's, hold on, I believe there's more to this. Helps to start at the beginning. Thank you for your here's my email I'd like to read you to Pat and to Susan, so you know what I said to her before she responded. I wrote her on the morning of 8/16, and I said, "Good morning, Susan. I spoke with Pat Mendoza to check the recall petition for voter verification. Pat referred me back to Andrea, the DEO. She questioned me if I had the petition and seemed surprised I had possession of the petition and wanted to verify the voters, as is my right. In pressing Pat, she admitted Andrea did verification at your location. Pat referred me to CML and back to Andrea as the only one as DEO who has the right to the voter list for verification. I was turned down. It is my understanding I had the right to verify the voters and am at this time challenging the entire petition as I was not allowed to verify voters. I phoned Pat at approximately 10:30 a.m. Thursday, August 16th. I find this extremely upsetting. In addition, Andrea had not had a copy of the petition made for me until I requested it on Tuesday, which would have been 2 days earlier.
So what, I get the gist. Can you see what
Sure.
the response is as to what the misunderstanding was?
Ms. Anderson, she replied, I spoke with Pat in regards to your concerns, and I believe there may have been a bit of misunderstanding. If you would like to request a voter list, you are more than welcome to do so, as I thought. Pat has attempted to contact you by phone with no success at this point.
I understand. So my understanding then is that they refused a voter list. After you were told that you could get a voter list from the county, what did you do? Did you attempt to do that?
We left it at this. We left it as I had already submitted the protest, and she didn't get back to me until after this was submitted. So that's where we've left it.
Okay. So you did not follow up.
I have not followed up until I followed up. I did follow up on not that day. I can tell you the date that I followed up.
So while you're looking at that, my next question will be, so the issue with the 69 voters is what?
Right. I want to see the registration list and compare it with the petition, the petitions that were signed.
Okay.
Exactly. Do my own verification.
You understand I ask these questions because I want to make sure I have a complete record.
Right.
Okay.
I asked her again for, it would have been Tuesday of, it says Tuesday on my,
You want a calendar?
in a continuing, well, yeah, I guess.
I think at this point it's for me, the dates are not all that important. What it seems to me is that you were, and see if I have this correct, you were initially denied a request to see the voter registration list.
Right.
You were then told that a mistake had been made.
Right.
And as you indicated, it is a public record, and you would have had, you do have an opportunity, as does any other citizen, to view the voters registration list.
Right.
In the meantime, you filed your protest and you have not pursued it?
Until it would have been Tuesday, the 21st, and I asked what was the last date that I had to, before the recall is put on the ballot. And she responded, she didn't respond, and I asked her for the courtesy of a reply, and she said, I'm at a clerk's conference and just able to respond, and September 7th is the last date for ballot. And
Okay.
that's the way it was left.
Okay, thank you. Please continue.
Okay, so in the meantime, my understanding is that she would have, upon receipt of my written notice of protest, she would have prepared a registration list pursuant to 31-10-205 to be utilized in determining whether such petition is sufficient. And I have not heard back.
So by she, you mean?
Susan Bailey. Or anyone from her office.
And it is your statement that you should have received the list
Yes.
without?
Or notification that the list was ready. As it's, the county clerk and recorder shall, upon receipt of such notice, which is talking about my protest, prepare a registration list pursuant to section 31-10-205 to be utilized in determining whether such petition is sufficient. And it hasn't been prepared
Okay.
to this point. 31-10-205 just goes on to, it appears to be her timing that she has and the regulations for her, for Susan Bailey. So it doesn't really pertain to us.
Okay.
The other insufficiencies that I am bringing forward were number 1 and number 5. The recall petition is incorrect as to name of the official being recalled in all 4, I believe there were 4 petitions. Five petitions. And number 5, and these two are related. The circulators went out of the boundaries of the paragraph and verbally added their own editing when presenting the petitions. And this is what, I have some prepared packets about what I found that they had been telling voters and doing prior to the recall or during the recall petition signing.
Okay.
And I'd like to.
You want to hand me a set?
Yes.
We're going to mark this as Protesters Exhibit A.
I think am I A or am I number?
You're a letter.
Okay, I'm a letter.
These are fancy stickers. I'm not sure how to use these, so I have to be trained here, so give me a moment. Oh, that's it. Okay. And do you have a copy for the petitioners?
I do. Who would like to accept the copy?
I will. Thank you.
I'll first, whenever you're ready, I'd like to address the name.
Okay, go ahead.
Is written as Jeannie, or typed in the prepared pages. I've never gone by Jeannie. This is, I'm wondering if the people who prepared this knew me at all. And I object to the name Jeannie. Then it goes on, and over the time, I was getting snippets of things that were coming back either on Facebook or by things that were said to me, or either outright or in conversation or from Facebook. And the on top is a 2-page, I guess I'll give you the statement of background since it would make more sense in the context of what was happening. It was very concerning to me that there was identity theft going on, and that the Recall group, specifically Justin Spradlin and Jeanette Corbin, had made up a profile on Facebook, or were, I don't know if they were complicit in making it up, but they were complicit in the conversations. And what they were doing was telling my supporters and the voters, or the Recall petition signers, that I was this person. I am not this person. This is a fake profile under the name of Richard Sherwood. And the first page identifies pretty much what they were doing. I got a call on this past Saturday, and the lady was quite upset. She had been on my official, I would call it my public page on Facebook, and a longtime supporter. Her name is Chris Barker.
Miss Anderson, just a moment here. I've looked through this information, and I am having trouble understanding
How it ties in?
this ties in. I mean, this to me just seems like back and forth on you are who you are, I am not who you are, false identity, that kind of thing, and I'm not sure this is really relevant to your protest on the going beyond the
What they had done was back in June, and I'll tie it in for you, is that they had made up, I went back to this guy's profile page, and what it had looked like is that they made it up, and on the second packet that I handed to you, on page, it's the largest packet, on page 1, 2, it would be the 4th page, the profiler, Richard Sherwood, at the very bottom of the page says, oh, well, they are not voters. And the entire thread is about, in fact, in the conversation just before, the false profiler says, Justin Spradlin, you think it's me pretending to be Janine Anderson. But as a former law trainee, what will happen is the public will think it's me pretending to be you pretending it's me. Don't you see, bozo? You are just like it. So, and then he goes on to say there was another link in the conversation, but he's blocked, so I don't know what he said.
And how does this tie in? Sorry to interrupt you, but
yep.
how does this tie in to your statement that they added their own editing when presenting the petitions?
Right. I think they presented themselves that I had been on Facebook as a false profile, and their intent was to cause the petition, the people who signed the petition, who were also on Facebook, to see me as this Richard Sherwood. It's identity theft, it's illegal, I'm disgusted, I want charges
All right,
filed.
that's not for today. I mean, you have the right as a citizen to
Right.
do anything you want, but
Right.
that's not for today.
It was identity theft, and that's what has been, this kind of dirty tricks has been going on with the recall petition in the newspaper, with coming into city council and getting up every single time Jeanette opened her mouth. She apparently didn't know me, and I didn't even recognize this person she was talking about.
Okay.
So I don't think that the voters, and I understand that while the actual content of the 200 words isn't what we're here for today, and in fact...
Well, it is actually what we're here for today.
The 200 words?
Well, I mean...
I agree. I think that in light of the fact that they were playing the most criminal activity of stealing my identity and pretending to be me, and then going on Facebook to the voters. Oh, well, they are not voters.
Okay, all right.
I think it was an outrageous thing to do, and I'm gonna, no matter what happens, I'll be taking it in front of the district court judge to show him,
Well, that's, again,
right?
you
I understand.
You have a right to do that. All right. So, anything else on 1 or 5 that is relevant?
Well, not only did they attack my supporters in the petition, they were calling me, somehow I entered into this race, I guess, as a Democrat. I am not. We are on city council nonpartisan, and there were arguments going back and forth about that Justin was putting forth that I'm a Democrat, and my name is Jeannie, and I've got this Facebook page you should all look at. The last packet was a woman named Sarah Arndt, and in 3 different ways she is confronting me about who I am, and she's a citizen of Brush. And she says, well, you put your phone number down here. And I said, well, my phone number is available on all my city contacts. It's on my page anywhere, anybody can get that. And then she goes on to say that there was an invitation to a meeting, and I said, I didn't invite anybody anywhere. Anything that we do as a council is made right from the DS. It all comes through council. It is all posted by our city clerk, and I didn't invite you to anything.
So this is all part and parcel of the same
Yes.
argument you're making? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And I just found it extremely deceitful.
Okay.
Extremely deceitful. From day one, they had tried to paint me as somebody who was a police hater. I am not. I'm against bad cops. I think a clean police department is essential in running a small city and a small city government. But I am not anti-police.
Okay. Anything else on these 2 items, 1 and 5?
I think that's
Okay, so now we
quite a
have
bit.
3 and 4 are left.
Well, 3 is when I am able to see the actual copy that she's provided, she meaning Susan Bailey has provided with me. And 4,
Let me, a copy of the petition.
I'm sorry. 3 is the petition.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a copy of the petition.
So this is no longer at issue?
It was only an issue in the timing, is that we got crunched up against the wall. And so, I do have a copy of the petition at this point.
So
Take it off.
Do you wish to withdraw?
I can withdraw number
All right.
3.
And then finally, number 4.
And again, if and when I'm, Susan has prepared a list for me, I can look and see who was duplicated, so I'm leaving 4 on. Or people that have moved. I think at least I found one person that had moved, at least one, so.
Who
I'm
was
gonna-
that?
I'm sorry?
Who was that?
I'll have to look on the, it'll take just a minute.
Okay.
Well, now that I'm looking for it, I can't find it. It was the signer on whose house it sold on Cameron.
What is Cameron? Is that a street name?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And it appears that they're signing on another address. The point is, I want to check them all because I found some that I would like to check. So I would like to still be able to check the entire list. To be able to check the questionable.
Do you have any other statements you wish to make? I understand you've subpoenaed some witnesses, and we can get to that next. But before we do, I just want to make sure that you've completed and stated everything that you intended to say this morning.
Right, I had wanted to expand a little bit on these Facebook, what they were saying.
Well, again, you've made the point that,
Okay.
that you believe the petitioners have gone outside the 200-word statement. I have that in my notes, and it's on the record. If you'd like to give me copies of those, if you haven't already, I'm more than happy to accept them and place them in the record.
You have them,
Okay, all right.
right?
Okay.
Thank you.
Witnesses?
I don't,
Oh, well, hold on.
Okay. Okay.
All right, go ahead. Witnesses, let's see, let me. Let's see, you
didn't
Oh, you
subpoena.
didn't subpoena anyone?
No, he was scheduled for, it's Sean Dennehy, but he was gonna try to make it
Okay.
sometime this morning. But I don't see him, so
Okay.
we can go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So, let me see if I have any further questions. I don't believe I do. All right. Petitioners, who is going to start? All right. So if you will raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And would you please state and spell your name for the record?
My name is Justin Spradlin, Justin Spradlin.
All right, please go on.
Just kind of gonna brush up on some of the stuff she mentioned. We obtained a list from the county clerk the day we went in for it. It's $25, they print you one up. The voter registration list was something we've had from the start. The voters were checked. There's been some speculation from people that side with Councilor Anderson that some of those signatures that were removed were fraudulent. So I was wanting to ask Andrea if she found anything that was fraudulent in those signatures that you removed, or was it just?
Well, you can't do that.
Okay.
You know, but go ahead, but.
So I have concerns that, there's things out there that we did something fraudulent when those signatures that were removed were clearly explained to us as either ineligible handwriting, couldn't verify address, certain things like that.
So let me just follow up on that. So tell me again that people said that signatures that were removed were fraudulent?
Yeah, we're having claims that there's fraud, that's of the 28 or 31 signatures that we had removed, that there's fraud involved in that.
And
That our petition gatherers were basically making up signatures or something along those lines.
Okay.
I'd like to point out that the packet of the stuff that she gave you from Facebook was after the petition was submitted. It had no bearing on.
Wait a minute, wait, I'm sorry, I'm writing. So
Oh,
hold
sorry.
on, I'm gonna have you repeat that because we're making, okay. All right, say that again, please. I'm sorry.
The conversation that she's printed out between I and Richard Sherwood, that conversation happened after the whole petition was submitted. That had no bearing on the gathering of signatures or the 200 words. Our part in it was done. We'd done our part.
Okay. Anything else?
I'd like Ms. Anderson to reread her email that she sent to Susan Bailey, just for clarification. When she read it, it sounded to me like she was asking for the county clerk to verify the petition, if that's the way I understood it. And I think that might be where the mix-up was, because they refer back to Andrea as the designated elected, official, and that's who verifies the petition. The county clerk has nothing to do with verifying the petition. She can provide the voter registration. So I might be misunderstanding, but the way I understood that, it was more wanting the clerk's office to verify the petition, and I think that's why she was being redirected back to Andrea. So that might be something worth hearing again, just that first email, because it was a little confusing for me too.
All right, well, we'll get that done. I'll have you do that, but not right at the moment.
And then to the one where we have the wrong person on the petition, the whole committee takes onus on that. Her name is spelled right on the first page. It's the residual pages afterwards. We added one extra N. So it's a typo.
Do you know if there is a Jeannie Anderson?
I'm
that
not sure what
resides in
she's talking
Brush?
about, Jeannie, because it's still spelled Janine, it just has one extra N.
It's actually spelled Jeannie, Jeannie.
Oh, I must have read it wrong. I don't know of a Jeannie Anderson in Brush, but that's something we could verify.
There's no one on count.
Wait, you'll have your chance. Okay.
And like I said, the leading page clearly states the correct name a couple times. So,
All right. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay. I'm going to have all the petitioners have an opportunity to speak, and then Ms. Anderson, if you wouldn't mind to go, I'll ask you to read that, the email for clarification for the record. All right. Who else would like, on part of the petitioners, to speak? Would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Would you please state and spell your name for the record?
Cassandra Hall, Cassandra, Hall, Hall.
All right, please proceed.
Yes, there is a typo, but it's about intent and not the spelling. There is no one on City Council with a name that's even close to her. And like I said, it was just a typo. And our intent is for Miss Janine Anderson of Ward 3. And she's the only other Ward 3 member besides Heath, who is a male. So there's no confusion in that.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to state?
I want to state that our ground for recall is about code of conduct. And the reason why we would like to have her removed from office is nothing to do with Facebook or posts like that.
I'm still writing, hold on. And anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Last petitioner? No? Okay. Ms. Anderson, would you please come back up? And you've been asked to reread that email that you sent to the county clerk.
It's also, I would point out, on the protest, it's written out also that.
Okay, thank you. And would you still read your actual email?
Good morning, Susan. I spoke with Pat Mendoza to check the recall petition for voter verification. Pat referred me back to Andrea, the DEO. She questioned me if I had the petition and seemed surprised I had possession of the petition and wanted to verify the voters, as is my right. Pretty sure that's what I have also stated, that the county has failed to allow viewing of the voter registrations. In pressing Pat, she admitted that Andrea did verification at your location. Pat referred me to CML and back to Andrea as the only one as DEO who has the right to the voter list for verification. I was turned down. It is my understanding I had the right to verify the voters, and am at this time challenging the entire petition as I was not allowed to verify the voters. I phoned Pat at approximately 10:30 a.m. Thursday, August 16. I find this extremely upsetting. In addition, Andrea had not had a copy of the petition made available to me until I requested it on Tuesday when she asked me for a statutory reference. A copy should have been made available within 24 hours from August 9th. So the email reiterated that what I said here, the county has failed to allow viewing of the voter registrations, failed to provide the voter list, and referred me to Andrea Strand and to CML. I don't know why CML. I mean, right. Pat Mendoza, the elections clerk I spoke with, denied me the same opportunity to view the voter registrations as Clerk Strand where she viewed the list in the county office. So I think it's pretty clear. I was just asking for the list so I could compare the petition with the list.
Did you say she refused to allow you to view it in her office?
She refused either to have it available in her office or to send it to me, or she just said, no, call Andrea.
She didn't say anything to you about making an open records request or paying for it or
She
anything like
didn't
that?
say anything.
Okay.
She referred me to CML and to Andrea.
Okay, all right. Clear? Okay, all right. That's all for now.
Gotcha.
Thank you. There's been a request for you to forward that particular email that you read to Ms. Strand so that we could include that as part of the record. Okay. And if you could do that as soon as possible, that would be great. Okay. All right. So no witnesses on either side. All right. I'm going to allow for closing remarks, and I'm going to let the petitioners go first. One or more of you can speak if you want to sum up your response to the protest. That would be great. If you don't want to, if you just identify yourself and remember you're still under oath.
Sure. My name is Justin Spradlin.
Thank you.
Just want to reiterate that the signature list is always available. It's $25. Anyone can get it. So I don't understand how that could be too much of an issue. Our recall was basically focused on, like we mentioned, the code of conduct violations. And outside of that, I think we've done our due diligence to, try to accomplish it. So.
Okay. Anyone else? Ms. Anderson, final words.
I'd like to, first of all, say about the name and the name misspelling and the Facebook fake profile. I think that it wasn't just the misspelling of my name. They don't know who they're recalling. The recall people didn't know me, and the things that were said about my party politics, my name, who they were recalling for the code of conduct, were all untrue. And what I want to say about this code of conduct that Ms. Hall brought up is that it was about Facebook posts of originally, and there is presently a Rule 57 in lawsuit
that's really not relevant to this.
overturn those code of conduct about those posts.
Again, all right.
I do have the right to have the voter list, and I was just appalled that when I called to ask for them that she referred me back to Andrea, and very clearly I was asking to have the voter list. Whether I had to pay for it or not is not even the issue. It just was plain flat not going to be made available to me when I asked for it. And to this date, I haven't heard back from Susan that she has it prepared for me as she is supposed to do under the statute. The other thing that I want to reiterate is about I want the fake profile taken down. It's identity theft. It's illegal. The intent of it, ever setting up the page, and when I went back to the page and looked, the conversations went clear back to June, so they were apparently planning to do this before the petitions were signed, and their intent was to make me look like I was in conflict with my supporters. And that was in the small packet that I placed on top. There was an,
Ms. Anderson, just so I'm clear, regarding this profile that you say is identity theft and fake,
yep,
do you have proof of this? Do you have proof of this?
I just submitted it all to you.
I know you submitted it, but what you submitted, but do you have proof that it is fake?
I think that if you read through the conversations, yes, I do. Can I read it? May I read it?
No, I just need to know, if you say you have proof, what is the proof that this is fake?
It's in the conversation between, well, I'll tell you right now, I'm up here under oath, and it is not me. So we can start with that. And I want it off. And I'm gonna go forward with charges.
Now, do you say that you're making, you know, we don't, let's not be threatening anybody here. You have a right to take whatever legal action you want, but that's outside the scope of this hearing. So you say you're under oath and you have proof it's not me. Do you have proof that it was petitioners who did this?
There was, in this packet, there is a conversation between Richard, this fake, whoever this is, and Justin Sprodlin. And it's the whole content of the conversation is how that they're planning to set this up, this fake profile, as Justin Sprodlin.
Can you identify the actual email that shows that they've set this up?
Fake. It's what you have in front of you. It's the conversation.
I understand this, but please make sure you understand what I'm asking. I'm reading this, and I'm reading this as a dialogue back and forth, mostly from Richard Sherwood, and you had just stated that Justin Spradlin set this up, and I wanted you to read me or to identify which part of this conversation is your proof that Mr. Spradlin set this up.
On page, I believe that I noted page 3. Okay, the entire conversation, Richard Sherwood goes on from the very first page, and he is talking to Justin Spradlin. Justin, the reason I don't have that part is because Justin was blocked off of my pages because he was devious. And so I only have Richard Sherwood's, but he is talking about Justin Spradlin. And he says, Justin Spradlin, not a civil lawsuit, you clown. And then he goes on to tell who he's talking about.
So
then,
are you referencing the part that says by Richard Sherwood, they will think it's you trying to be me by writing a false identity? They will think it's you pretending to be me, pretending to be you. Is that?
Well, that's not that's one of them.
But that's your proof?
No, no, it's on page, it's the entire thread. I believe it's the next page. This is an entire thread of conversation this isn't just one conversation, it goes on. He says, Justin Spradlin, you think it's me pretending to be Janine Anderson. So apparently he's saying that he's pretending to be me. But as a former law trainee, what will happen is the public will think it's me, whoever it is, pretending to be you, pretending to be him. Don't you see, bozo, you are just like every dumb hunter, cannot see the forest for the trees.
Okay. So
he answers back and then he says, oh, well, they are not voters.
Okay, all right. So basically you're saying what I just said. That is your proof here, is the statement from Richard Sherwood.
Yes, and it's not just one, it's the entire content.
I understand.
Of the thread.
Again, I don't want to get too far into this. This is something that I will consider when I make my findings.
And in fact, all 3 of them are related.
Okay.
They're all 3 of these that are stapled together are related.
Okay.
And this is, the small one is Justin who contacted one of my supporters.
Okay, all right.
And she was alarmed, and she called me and she said, I just called you. Here's the message that was sent. My mom doesn't live in Brush or Sterling or Fort Morgan. She lives about 4 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
And she called me and she said, we don't want to be involved in this. And I said, well, I'm sorry that this happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
So she texted me this, and this is what I took off of it. And she says, just so this is what Justin said to her.
Okay, all right. Well, again, I will consider this as part of the case, and I will use this when I deal with, consider my findings.
And the third one is the conversation that I had with Sarah Arch, who was
Right.
just absolutely convinced that I'm Richard Sherwood.
Okay, all right. Okay.
So I know exactly how people have had their identity stolen. I know exactly how they feel.
All right. Anything else regarding the protest, the items on the protest?
I'm sorry?
Any further comments?
I believe that's all. I'll take a
Okay.
final look,
All right.
but I believe that
All right.
that's it.
I'm not gonna continue this back and forth. I think I've got all the information that I need at this point. So let me tell you what will happen. By law, I, as the hearing officer, have 5 days in which to render my findings. I will do so based upon the testimony that was provided, based upon the evidence that was provided, and all the documents that we've taken administrative notice of. My 5-day deadline is Sunday. It is my intention to complete my results, my findings by Sunday, and my findings will be sent directly to Ms. Strand, and it will be her responsibility to make sure that the protester and the petition representatives get copies of it. Now, I'm aware that Monday is a holiday, so please don't look for the information until Tuesday. And then, based on the findings, you know, whatever happens, the law will, will proceed. So, given that, it is a little after 10 o'clock, and I want to thank everybody for coming. I especially want to thank members of the audience here for being very polite and listening and very understanding. And with that, this hearing is adjourned.
Your gum and everything. Okay, I just wanted to make sure you knew. So you work with your
No, I've been for 32 years.